We have a great episode for you today as we explore how Carol Koutsourais, a true entrepreneur, went from being a business owner of a hair salon into real estate, where she closed 12 transactions her first year. And she has 5 more in the pipeline that will be closing soon. Carol shares her tips and tricks on navigating through her first year and gives some accounts of true client stories that are sure to inspire.
Welcome to Unlocking Real Estate, My First Commission, where we dive into real stories, big wins, and early lessons learned from highly successful rookie real estate agents and brokers. This is the series where we explore how real estate transforms lives, one home at a time, by sitting down each week with a new agent or broker who has found incredible success in their first year. Your hosts are instructors and leaders at Colibri Real Estate School, one of the largest real estate educators in the nation, where we focus on helping people like you get started or find continued success in their careers.
Hello, and welcome to Unlocking Real Estate, My First Commission. I'm your host, Tina Lapp, Head of Industry Relations and Career Excellence at Colibri Real Estate. I've been in real estate education for over 30 years, helping individuals enter and thrive in their real estate careers. We are here today with Carol Koutsourais. Carol, will you take a moment to introduce yourself, where you're from, and what company you're with?
Sure. My name is Carol Koutsourais, and I am from Youngstown, Ohio. I actually live in Poland, which is a suburb of Youngstown. I'm with Century 21 Lakeside Realty.
That is wonderful. So I'm in Ohio as well. Love it. So you're not too far up the road from me. So Carol, what were you doing before you got into real estate?
Well, I co-owned a hair salon for many years. Sold that in 2014 and started a social media marketing company for small businesses, which I still have a couple of clients that I do that with. And I was working for a company right before I decided to take my test, and they were downsizing and just having, like layoffs and whatnot. So I said to my husband, I've always wanted to sell real estate, but I didn't want to take a test. I'm a horrible test taker. And he was like, just go for it. So what? You'd be great at it. So I decided to take my test. I quit my job, took my test, went to Hondros school, got done. The classes, I think, were like maybe a month long. I did it all online. And then I studied. I was really nervous. So I studied for like a month and a half before I went and actually took the test.
Wow. So you had your salon and you decide to make the leap. How hard was it to make that decision? What were you worried about?
It was really tough because we did it for so many years. We actually started it together, but before we were even dating, and then we started dating and ended up getting married. So it was like basically my whole adult life was, having a salon. And there's all these different rules and regulations where you used to have to just be commission only for stylists, and then it was rental, and just a lot of different variables came. So somebody came to me and said they wanted to buy the salon, and I jumped on it, and it was scary. It was just really scary. So, but my husband's still in the business. He is a hairdresser still, and I just went into the social media aspect of it. Yeah.
Okay, so that's fun. So you decided to make the leap. You're not the first person I've heard say you're afraid of the exam. You haven't been in a classroom in years, afraid to take the test. So you and your husband decided, like, he's behind you. You're going to do this. Did you talk to anyone in real estate before you decided to take classes, or did you kind of start talking to people about the career after you were in school?
So I did talk to people. One of my social media marketing clients is she owns a real estate company. And
Awesome.
so I called her and I said, Sherry, I really love doing your social media. And I'm, always been interested in looking at houses and stuff. And I
Yeah.
think I would really like it. And, tell me your thoughts. And she said, I think you'd be great at it. I think you could, would love this. And I said, well, what do you think? Like, would I be able to come to work with you guys? And she said, to tell you the truth, she said, it's me and my dad, and we have no education. We don't give any referrals or anything like that. So if you're thinking of another company, I would definitely talk to them. And she said, maybe down the road you would like to work here once you get established. But for right now, I don't think it's a good place for you to start. And I have to say it was the best advice that anybody ever gave me because I ended up a friend of mine's mom works for Century 21. So she said, why
Okay.
don't you talk to my mom? So I did. And that's when I went to Century 21. I met George Barrick, who's our owner,
Yeah.
and my interview with him was like 3 hours. And I was like, I loved everything he said, the culture, everything. And so and then one of the brokers there is actually an instructor for Hondros. So she told me about Hondros and I was like, oh, cool. So that's how it started.
That's great. I love that. So you decided to go through the classes. Did you go in the classroom? Did you do it online? How'd you complete your coursework?
I did it online, but like live, but so it was a virtual classroom, I guess.
Yeah,
Which
live stream. Yep.
Yep, yep. I wanted to do it in person, but the classes didn't start for like 3 months, and I was just like, "Okay, if I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do it right now." So, but that was
Yes.
really well for me. I really enjoyed it that way, yeah.
Yeah, and you had a live instructor, there were other students, and, did you attend any, like, in-person events at all to meet with other companies, or you really already decided what company you're going with, right?
Yeah, I really at that point, I decided and I had heard that, through Hondros that, there's different events that you could go to, but, I really liked what I heard about Century 21, so I just
Yeah.
decided to stay there. Yeah.
Perfect, perfect. You had found your home. So, going through the classes, were you still working at the time, or could you focus on the classes when you got started?
I still had a couple social media marketing clients, so
Yeah,
I was working, but it was very part-time, so I was pretty focused on it.
that's great. And how long did you say it took you to get through the classes?
I think it was like
Do you
a month
remember?
and a half. Yeah,
Okay,
about a month and a half. So
not
it wasn't bad at all.
bad.
I went full-time. I know there was a part-time option too, but
Yeah. Okay. So you went straight through, you did it live stream, you got done in about a month and a half. What was the hardest part about going through the classes?
probably I think just not having anybody to really talk to other than, because you didn't really get to know people that way.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I did, I talked a lot with the woman that ended up being my mentor, who told me about Century 21. So that was super helpful. But she had gotten her license a long time ago, and she would be like, "Oh, geez, I don't remember that," that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I'm sure. And so you went to the state exam. Did you pass the first time?
I did. I did. I was
Okay. Okay.
shocked. I was so nervous, and like I said, I'm a horrible test taker. And I was so anxious, and I kept thinking in my head, if I don't pass, I don't know if I'm going to do it again because I don't like to take tests. But
Well,
I
I
did.
gotta tell you, you did it, and congratulations. And by the way, if you don't pass the first time, don't get discouraged because a lot of people afraid of taking tests, haven't done it in a long time. It is absolutely no indication of whether you're going to be successful in real estate, right? Like what you
So
learn in pre-licensing is
yes,
really different. It's the information you need to know, but not necessarily an indication of
right.
success in real estate. But you did it, and congratulations. So
Thank
so
you so
here
much.
you are, you're like changing your career up, you're still doing a little social media. What were your expectations going into your first year? What did you think it would be like, and what did you think success looked like for your first year?
Well, I thought my first year would be a lot of learning, a lot of,
Yeah.
following people around, which I did. I did a lot of open houses and I love open houses. I still do them. Um, so I was really, I was hoping that I would sell a couple of houses, but I'm like super blessed that I've sold as many as I did. So I didn't think it was going to be this quick for my success.
Yeah, that's great. So you mentioned open houses. I talk to people, some people love them, some people don't love them so much. You said you love open houses. Tell us more about that. What do you love about open houses, and how have they worked for you?
So I really love like meeting people and showing them the new houses, but like making relationships with people. But to be truthful, I'm trying to think, I sold one like when I was doing open house, I sold only one house at that open house.
Mhm.
However, I've gotten clients from them, and I've gotten listings from those people that are looking for other things. So I think they're super helpful with, making relationships and meeting people and just getting the word out there of what you do. And I posted a lot about being in open houses for social media on my own personal social media. So
Yeah, that's
I
great.
I think probably maybe a third of my sales transactions like that are closed already came from doing open houses.
That's great news. So, great tip there. How long after you got licensed did you close your first transaction?
So I was licensed in May, and then my first transaction I closed in August.
Okay, so 3 months or less, not bad. Pretty good. So, you as a new agent, you gotta establish credibility, or do you? Like, how did you establish yourself as a new agent? And did you find it difficult to get that credibility?
I was like really nervous about that, to be honest. I did a lot of mailings in like the local zip code where I live. And also to the people, a lot of in my sphere, I did a lot of emails and regular mails. Did a lot of posting on social media, tried to do my best to learn everything, like watch the market watch all the time. So when people say, how's real estate going? Instead of just saying good, I explain good, but why it was so good, that kind of
Yeah,
stuff. So I
smart.
feel like it was, it's sort of challenging at first because your confidence levels aren't so great. But I feel like, yeah, I think that was super helpful for me.
Yeah. So you're emailing, you're sending kind of snail mail out there, utilizing social media, doing open houses. What do you think was most effective that got you to the closing table? Like where were the best leads from?
Probably from my sphere, to be honest.
Yeah, okay. That's
Mhm.
great. That's
Yeah,
great. So if you could say like what helped you achieve success so quickly? Would it be the same answer then? Would it be your
um,
sphere of
I
influence?
I think my sphere of influence is huge, but I also think, like, my mentor, the education that I got at Century 21, there's a few agents in my office that I've gotten close with that are very successful, and just the help that I've gotten from them is, just unbelievable. So I have a great group of people that I work with.
Makes such a difference, doesn't it? Like to be surrounded by others, especially as a new agent, right? Like you can ask questions. Do you feel like you have people around you that like there are times you don't have an answer or know how to handle a transaction or a situation? Do you feel like you have a network of people you can reach out to?
100%. Yes. I have
Yeah, good.
3 agents in particular that, we talk every day, and I'm always running things by them. Yeah, for sure. And if
Yeah,
you have like major question that is like the boss question, I could text my boss and he answers me in like 5 minutes. It's incredible.
that's great. So important to have that network. So I'm glad you have that, and it does make a difference when you're looking for a broker or a company to work with to, find out if you have that support. You said you went through some training too after I'm going to say the regulated pre-licensing that you took at Hondros. You went through some training at Century 21. What was that about?
We have like monthly classes for new agents, and it's just basically a Q&A. We learned about mojoing. Um, I also did some certifications through NAR. I just finished my senior real estate, the SRES, um, which was it was a great class, really a great
Yeah.
class. And I decided to take that because I was working with a couple of senior citizens that were downsizing, and just realized it's a whole different market. And some of them really need a lot of help. Some of them, have families that are super helpful, but some of them just, really need your help. And there was a lot of
Yeah.
questions that I still had. So that really, really helped me a lot. I think it's going to be great for my future too.
That's great. So the education and training, it sounds like, has certainly helped with your success and understanding how to work with certain markets and certain demographics as well.
Yes,
Would you
absolutely.
say that? Good.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
did you? work with predominantly buyers, predominantly sellers? Did you target a specific audience or a specific neighborhood or anything like that?
I did target, like, around my area, like, in Poland, the 44514 zip, just
Yeah,
because I know it so well. As
perfect.
far as the specific audience, it's pretty much all over the place. I've had first-time home buyers, I've had, um, people that were downsizing, people that were looking for homes that they can bring their parents into. So pretty much, I'm open to everything. I just recently worked
Yeah.
with a couple investors, so that was interesting.
Hmm.
So yeah, a little bit of everything, I think.
Okay, that's great. Yeah, yeah. Anything that any opportunities, you're very opportunistic, which is great. So, thinking about the first year, what were some of the biggest challenges for you? Like, what'd you find the most difficult kicking off your real estate career?
Um, let's see. Probably the most difficult thing I felt like sometimes I was bugging people, and I hate to
Mm.
be that salesy kind of person, but if I
Uh,
would see somebody like at a restaurant or something and they were saying, "Oh, I hear you're selling real estate. My son's looking." And I would be, "Oh, that's awesome." And instead of saying, "Oh, let me, give me his number or let me contact him or something," I would just say, "Oh, that's nice. Well, if they need anything, let me know." So, because I just didn't feel confident enough to, you know, outright say, "Can I have their phone number?" or "How can I get a hold
yeah.
of them?" And now I feel so much more confident after doing it for a while that when somebody says something to me, for example, I just had a friend of mine say that her friend is looking for a lake house. And I said, "Oh, that's great." And she said, "Yeah, we're thinking of going in on it together." And I said, "Oh, awesome." So she was actually getting her hair done last night whenever I stopped in to see my husband. And so this morning, first thing, I called her and I said, "Are you really serious about that? Because if you are, I can set you guys up with a search and we can go look at." And I told her some that I knew of. So next week we're going to start looking for lake houses with them. So just, really following up, I think was my biggest. I just was felt funny about it. And now I'm just like, that's what you got to do, you know?
Yeah. And do you have a regimen on how often you follow up, how often you touch base? Is there one that you sort of fallen into your groove that works well for you?
Um, Pretty much, I think my first contact is usually a text message, as long
Okay.
as I know them, and then if they don't respond, I wait a couple of days, and then just sort of fill them out, like I'll text them again or even make a phone call. It really depends on the person because I'm working with this young couple right now, and you text them and they don't answer for like 4 or 5 days. So then I'll text them again and they're like, "Oh, sorry, we were busy or whatever." But, I guess it just really depends on the person as far as how
Yeah.
I reach the people.
Yeah. Okay. So thinking about your transactions your first year, and you had a good number of them. So any ones that stand out to you that were particularly touching, funny, anything like that that are really memorable for you?
Yeah, I have one that just like touched my heart. I was doing an open house for one of my colleagues' listings, and this woman came in, and she said, "I'm just looking for my dad." And she said, "My mom passed away a few months ago, and he doesn't even know I'm looking for him. But this
Mm,
condo would be perfect for him." And I was like, "Oh, that's great." And I took her for a tour on it. And I said, "If you want to bring your dad back," she goes, "Well, I'm going to send my husband first." And so she left, and like 15 minutes later, her husband came back and he walked in and he said, "This would be perfect for Max. This is just like his house, but a miniature version." So I said, "Okay." So at that point, there was like, I don't know, maybe a half hour left, and he lived about a half hour away. And she said, "Is there any way that you could possibly," he said, "Is there any way that you could possibly stay later?" And I said, "Sure." So they brought Max out, and he walked in and he said, "Well, I just found out that my kids are looking for a condo for me. So here I am." And I was like, "Okay." So I showed it to him, and he said, "I love this place." He goes, I think I need to live here." Great. That's awesome. So then he
yeah.
said, "I have a house that's pretty big out in East Liverpool. Can you come and look at it for me?" So I did the next day. And then his daughter called me. So we put an offer in that night. The offer was accepted. His daughter called me the following day and she said, I have a really weird request. And I said, sure, what's up? She said, you know, the little prayer card that was in the light switch in the kitchen? And I said, yeah, I saw it. It was a picture of Jesus. And she said, I'm going to tell you, I'm not really religious, but my mother loved prayer cards. And I really think it was a sign for my dad to get this condo. I was like, it
Oh,
warmed my I just thought it was the sweetest thing, and he even said, you know, later through the transaction, he said, "My daughter really thinks that my wife put that condo in front of us because of that prayer card." So I called the agent
wow.
and I told her, she goes, "Absolutely, we'll leave the prayer card for him." So we just closed on his condo 2 weeks ago, and I just closed on his house sale last week. So that was probably my favorite.
I love that. And that gave me the chills, but congratulations. And I am glad he found his new home. And I love that story. And right, like that's why we do what we do, right? It's to help
So true.
change lives. Yeah.
So true.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
That's
at the end
great.
it was awesome. At the end of the transaction, he looked at me and he said, "You know, I'm gonna have to apologize to you." And I said, "Why?" And he said, "Not just you, but all realtors. I just thought they opened the door and showed houses and they did nothing else." And he said, "But wow, you taught me what a realtor really does." I was like, that transaction, I'm telling you, from the prayer card to that comment was the best.
I love it. What a great story. And yes, that's why I hear so many people say, like, you're not in real estate for sales. You're in real estate to help people and change lives. You know, it's
Mhm.
really cool. That's a great example.
Yeah, it was fun.
What would you say was the most challenging transaction? Do you have one that stands out that you had to call in backup or ask for help or support or guidance on how to manage through the transaction?
Yeah, I actually am going through one right now. We're finally supposed to close Friday. There was a house that I sold to this gentleman. The inspection came back great, nothing wrong with it. Well, but when the appraiser went out, he found some tiny cracks in the foundation. But the house was from 1940, and the appraiser, or the rather the inspector, said that's normal, that's nothing, but the appraiser wanted to have a structural engineer come out.
Mm.
So we had a structural engineer come out, and the deal was going to be like, the sellers were really upset that this was happening. It was 5 kids that they were selling their parents' house. They weren't kids, but 5 of
Yeah,
the
right.
you know.
They're children, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So they were really upset and they said, you know, there's no reason to do this. And, you know, I can't believe this happened. And I said, I understand, but that's, you know, that's what the bank is saying. We have to do this. So there was no other way. And the other agent said, well, they're not going to pay for it. And I said, okay, you know, I don't know what I'm going to do with this. So I called the structural engineer and I said, how much is this to do this? And he told me how much it would be. And so I said, "You know what? I will pay you to come out. We can't lose this deal. We just can't." This guy that he's been ready to go since the
Wow.
1st of July, and he's packed and he's ready. And so he came out, he did the report and everything was fine. And they sent it back to the bank and the appraiser said, okay, but it was really like touch and go for a little bit because there was a lot of people that were really angry that this had to happen. So
Yeah. And so our audience that's considering a career in real estate and they're listening to this, like what would you tell them? Like, how'd you know how to navigate that?
well, a lot of questions to my broker because I just really wasn't sure how to
Yeah.
navigate that. She was super, you know, super helpful to me with that situation.
Yeah.
It just, I think if you're looking to do that, just make sure that you're in a company that you feel comfortable when you do have a tough situation, that, you know, somebody's going to help you through it.
Yeah, that's good advice. Like, know you're not alone and make sure you're surrounded by the right people, the right
Right.
organization. Great recommendations, Carol. So, how do you build ongoing relationships with either clients or leads? Is there anything you do special or different than just send them emails?
Um, I try to be their friend, not just their real estate agent.
Yeah.
Yesterday, I knew one of my clients was going to get her hair cut from my husband. So I said to him, "What time's she coming in?" So I went and I said hi to her and I said, "We made a lunch date." And she's like referred me like two other people since I sold her house and then got them a condo as well. And just, I just try to be friendly, try to find common ground with your clients and just keep the relationships going because down the road
Yeah.
they're going to refer you more people.
Yeah. Those referrals are so valuable for sure.
They really are.
So, Carol, where do you see yourself in 5 years? What's next?
Well, in 5 years, I hope to be a top producer in my company. So we'll see how that goes.
It sounds like you're well on your way. So keep doing what you're doing because you have a great formula and it's working. So
Thank you.
for the audience, again, aspiring real estate agents or people who are recently licensed and looking for tips and tricks to get started, do you have some tips or tricks that you could share?
Um, I think just learn everything you can about your market in the area. I have a tri-county area. I
Good.
was not real familiar with Trumbull County, and I've just tried to learn everything I can.
Love that.
Look at the MLS 3 or 4 or 5 times a day, see what's what's coming up for sale, what is closed. Just surround yourself with a great group of people. Take the advice of agents that have been doing this for 20 some years and listen to what they say. There's just so much knowledge to have. And I think every educational thing that you can see and could possibly do, you should try to take any class that you could take as far as real estate goes.
Yeah, education's so valuable. And the other thing I wanted to ask you about, I know that you do a lot with social media. You've kind of have a background in doing that. What are the kinds of things that you post about on social?
So I do a lot of stories as far as like when my open houses are, the listings that I have, if something sold, congratulating the sellers and the buyers. And I try to like do some facts as well as far as the local area, like what's going on. We're in a seller's market. Nationally, I know it's like balancing itself out, but here in the Tri-County area, definitely it's still a seller's market. So I just try to be as informative as I can be to people.
I Great advice. And thank you. Thank you for sharing that. So,
Sure.
Carol, we're going to have some fun. We're going to jump into our lightning round. These are just fun questions. Would love your thoughts on them.
But
And we're quick answers, 60 seconds or less. But we'll start with this one. Is there a book or a podcast that you listen to that you would recommend to the audience and why?
I think my favorite book is The Pivot Year. It's
Okay.
a book about pivoting your career or your life or whatever you're gonna do. Um, and it's 365 days, and each day has something different in it. And it's just positive affirmations. I absolutely love it, and I read it
So
probably 3
cool.
times over again. I look at it
That's
pretty much
great.
daily.
That's great. Great recommendation. So, if we had a time machine and you could go back to the day you started this journey, what advice would you give yourself or what might you do differently?
Um, as far as advice that I would give myself was be confident in yourself. Whenever you feel like nervous and like you don't know anything, you really, if you take all the training and listen to what your mentors are saying, you have the knowledge. So be confident and don't be nervous. Just go for it.
It's great. That's great. And yeah, take advantage of the education and training that's out there. I love that. Um, so if you could have dinner with one person, dead or alive, who would it be and why?
um Ryan Serhant, are you familiar?
Uh-uh.
He is a real estate agent in New York City. He owns the Serhant company.
Ah, okay. Yeah.
He
Okay.
also has a show on Netflix, And believe it or not, I know a lot of like the reality shows are not true for everything, but some of the negotiations that they did really helped me, really helped
Mm.
me. And I would love to sit down with him for an hour and just pick his brain.
Love it. That's great. That's great. Um, Carol, what'd you do at work yesterday?
Yesterday at work, I started my day at home, answered my emails first, checked the MLS. Then I went to, we had a class about becoming a PA agent. One of the agents in my office is opening a Century 21 in Pennsylvania. So we learned about that, which I'm going to start studying for next month and get my license in Pennsylvania. I live like 15 minutes from the border, so it's crazy not to do that.
Yeah.
Um, it was a great class, and after that, I went and met with somebody about listing their house. Then I had 2 showings last night, and what else did I do? Just answered my emails in the evening again and answered texts and followed up with some things.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like a busy day, which is good. How do you
Mhm.
balance your personal life with your work life, or do you? Like, any tips or tricks on that?
Um, I really try to take like like Friday and Saturday nights. I try not to work. I always work on Saturdays and Sundays. Um, but I try Fridays and Saturdays, in the evenings to spend with my husband and my kids.
Yeah.
Um, and then at night I try to make my cutoff at like 8 o'clock. Just so I can spend time with my husband whenever, he gets home from work too. But sometimes it's hard, if
Yeah.
you're in the middle of a deal and your client needs you at 9:30 at night and they're calling you and, you just do what you have to do.
Yeah. But setting some of those boundaries, it sounds like is pretty important. You still need some you time, right?
That's for sure. Yeah, that's for sure. I think you'd get so burned out if you didn't take you time.
Yeah. I think that's great. And sometimes you take that 9:30 call, but those, hopefully those are the exception, and you set the expectation maybe up front with your clients.
Yeah,
That's
for
great.
sure. For sure.
So, Carol, where can listeners and viewers find you, connect with you, or follow your journey, see your social posts, etc.?
So you can check out my website and it's homesbycarolk.com. I'm on Instagram and Facebook and LinkedIn, same Homes by Carol K.
Perfect.
You can call me at 330-651-0038, or you can email me at c21.carolk@gmail.com.
Love it. That's perfect. Carol, thank you so much for spending time with us today, sharing your journey. I think your story will inspire others. It's a great one. Congratulations on your success. And I know you're going to hit that 5-year plan probably in less than 5 years of being a top producer. So congratulations on your success. And
Thank you,
thank
Tina.
you again.
Thank you. This was great. Thanks so much.
Thanks for tuning in to Unlocking Real Estate, My First Commission. We hope today's stories and insights inspired you to take that next step in your real estate journey. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss an episode, or head over to our channel to see some of the other content we've produced. We'd also love to hear from you. Drop a comment below with your biggest takeaway or a question for our next guest. If you have a recommendation for someone we should interview, please send a note to unlockingrealestate@colibrirealestate.com.